Hi, good to see you. Everyone ignored the twins on the street who were asking for help for their sick mother. One day a surgeon followed the girls and was horrified. Seeing what they were doing with her own mother, Marisol carefully adjusted the guitar strings, her fingers dancing skillfully on it. Instrument while Estela tuned her own voice in the vibrant heart of a street market in Mexico City, the duo prepared for another day of singing and music. The only way I knew to keep the family ready, Estela Marisol asked, casting an encouraging look at her sister, who responded with a confident nod. They knew the routine well. Every note and word of the songs they performed, a repertoire chosen to touch the hearts of passers-by. Estela began to sing, her voice rising above the murmur of the market. Clara and emotional, she knew that they needed every peso they could. Maybe today, Marisol, maybe today, we will get enough, she thought as she sang, her mind oscillating between hope and worry. Her music a mix of melodies, traditional Mexican dishes with touches of modernity, had the power to attract attention, but most passers-by only cast a quick glance before moving on. Marisol looked around, observing the people moving through the market, some stopping to listen, others just passing by. Long he noticed every detail, the tired faces of the workers, the mothers distracting impatient children, the disinterested young people with headphones. Why is it so difficult? He wondered internally, his frustration growing with each coin thrown into her open guitar case. We sang with all our hearts, and still it seems that it is never enough. With each song that ended, Estela smiled, doing even if only a few coins had been thrown. Thank you for listening, she said, keeping her voice sweet and pleasant despite the growing desolation he felt. He looked at the coins in the guitar case on the floor, mentally counting how much was still left before they could buy the medicines that Carmela I needed. Maybe we should try a new song tomorrow, something that gets more attention, something that really makes people stop. Always pondering in search of a solution for a way to improve her situation. While playing, Marisol couldn't stop thinking about her mother Carmela, lying on an old mattress in the small alley where they lived not far from there. The image of her weak and sick mother was what motivated her to play every day, better to sing each note with more feeling. Mom used to sing to us. She remembered the memories of better times, warming her heart. She would be proud to see us now fighting, not music. Giving up, Marisol concluded the presentation. Come on, Estela, let's go see how Mom is, she said, putting the guitar away carefully. The two gathered the few coins, they put away their instruments, and they prepared to leave the market. As they walked back to the alley, their thoughts were with Carmela and the hope of a better day, and the determination that somehow they would find a way to change their lives. Marisol and Estela walked back home, the violin swinging gently on Marisol's back. The sunset dyed the facades of the buildings with shades of orange and red, creating a visual spectacle that contrasted with the harsh reality of the sisters as they left the market. A voice caught their attention. A woman with a welcoming smile was standing next to a small makeshift stand advertising curious sign language courses. Marisol and Estela approached, looking at the colorful brochures laid out on the table. The table is an incredible opportunity to communicate better with the one you love, the woman explained, her eyes shining with sincere fervor. Estela took one of the brochures, quickly reading the details. How much does the course cost? Her voice asked, mixing hope and suspicion. The monthly fee is pesos, the woman responded. Woman, noticing the girl's excitement, Marisol felt a tightening in her heart. It was much more than they could pay, especially considering their daily financial struggles. Estela also felt her heart grow. Disappointment, but they are polite to the woman. Let's think about it and see what we can do, said her voice trembling slightly. The sisters thanked and continued on their way, the pamphlet clutched in Estela's hands as a reminder of the barriers they still needed to overcome. As they walked, Marisol tried to find some solution. Maybe we can gather a little every day. Maybe we can do something. It would be an excellent option to teach our mother to communicate without her voice, she murmured, her speech full of hope and positivity. Getting closer and closer to the alley where they lived, the scene was gloomy and uninviting. The small space they called home was little more than a makeshift shelter between two buildings. However, as they approached, a small sign of generosity broke the monotony of the day. A hot seller, dogs watching the girls return. He offered them a hot dog that had been rejected by another customer. It's not perfect, but it's food, he said with a kind smile. Grateful, the sisters accepted the bitten sandwich and they entered the alley, finding their mother Carmela sitting on an old blanket spread on the floor. Carmela looked at them with an expression that mixed concern and love. Without being able to say anything due to her throat cancer, Estela offered the hot dog to the mother who, without saying one word, he took. He carefully divided it into 3 equal parts and gave a piece to each one. They ate in silence. Carmela's gesture conveyed more than words could. Her smile was fragile but genuine, a small celebration of her union and resistance in the face of adversity. Estela looked at Marisol, an unsaid promise shining in her eyes. We are going to make it, she thought, no matter what it takes. After the improvised meal, Isel and Estela sat next to Carmela, each one holding one of her hands, sharing a moment of silence. The brochure for the sign language course was still between them, and Marisol was the first to break the silence. Estela, and if we used a small part of what we earned to pay for the course, only a part, so that we can save for Mom's surgery, she suggested, her gaze fixed on the mother who was watching the daughters with an attentive expression. Estela thought for a moment about the Clara uncertainty in her eyes. But that would delay the surgery. Is it worth it? She asked, the internal conflict evident in her. Marisola's voice felt firm in her decision. It could delay a little, yes, but if we can communicate better with Mom, help her feel more part of everything again, won't that have a greater value? She needs this. Estela convinced. Estela finally agreed with a reluctant nod. Is fine, let's do it, but we have to be clever. We can only pay one tuition, then one of us will have to pretend to be the other on school days. We are twins, no one will notice, Estela planned, a mischievous smile crossing her face as she imagined the situation at hand. The next day, before going to the market, the twins opened the small can where they kept the coins they collected daily. They carefully counted the money, separating enough for the first monthly payment of the course. It was a sacrifice, but a renewed hope shone in her eyes as she made that decision. With the tuition money safe in her hands, Marisol and Estela found the woman from the advertisement again. Good morning. We have thought about the course and we would like to enroll one of us. We only have enough for a tuition fee, but that should be enough, Marisol said with a confidence that she didn't even know she possessed. The woman smiled, touched by the determination of the young women. Of course, we can do that. It will be a pleasure to help you, she replied, accepting the money and writing down the name that Marisol gave her, a name that would be secretly used by both twins to alternate classes without the woman knowing. With the inscription made, the twins returned to their usual place in the market, ready for another day of music. Estela took the guitar and began to tune it while Marisol tested the acoustics of the place with some soft notes. Today, we are going to sing with a new purpose, Estela. Each song it is for her, for us, said Marisol, and Estela nodded, feeling the weight and value of each note they would play. Began to play, their voices perfectly harmonizing the music, filling the air around. The people began to gather, attracted by the beauty of the melodies and the passion evident in each word sung as the music of Marisol and Estela filled the air of the market. More people approached, attracted by the harmonious voices and the authenticity palpable in each note. Marisol's guitar case was spread on the floor in front of them, and the coins began to fall on the fabric, making a noise with promises of a future, perhaps a little brighter. Among the spectators, a man with a distinguished posture and attentive gaze remained a little apart from the group. His name was Aureliano Ruiz. While he listened to deep thoughts flooding him, the melody was surprisingly familiar, playing something in his memory. This was the music of my wedding, he thought, a wave of nostalgia and sadness mixing within him as he remembered happier times when the music ended. The applause was immediate and warm. Ruiz, moved by the situation and the memories she evoked, approached the sisters with an excited smile. This music was played at my wedding. You performed it wonderfully, he said, his voice full of emotion. Marisol and Estela smiled, touched by the praise. Thank you very much, sir. It's also special for us. What is your name? Marisol asked while Estela nodded, both curious about the sincere reaction of the still-moved man. He looked at the 2 young women in front of him and asked, My name is Aureliano Ruiz, but you can just call me Ruiz to facilitate. I can know why they are playing here in the street. The question was simple, but carried a weight of genuine concern. The sisters exchanged a quick and sad look. Our mother was a great opera singer. Estela began, her voice soft, but developed throat cancer, lost her voice, the ability to sing, and eventually had to leave our home. Marisol continued, we are trying to raise money for her surgery. Every day here is hope that we will be able to bring her back to us in the world of music. We want everything to be well with her, and we are committed to doing everything necessary for that to happen. Ruiz listened attentively, his heart tightened by the story of the young women. He reached for his wallet and took it out. a large bill and carefully placed it in the guitar case. "I wish you and your mother all the best," he said, his eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and concern. Marisol and Estela thanked, their hearts overflowing with gratitude. The kindness of this stranger brought them more than just financial help. It gave them a little hope, and the feeling that they were not alone in their struggle. As Ruiz walked away, her mind began to spin with conflicting thoughts. The story of the girls was moving indeed, but his experience as a doctor had taught him to be cautious. How many people out there take advantage of the kindness of others with sad stories? He thought, doubt growing in his mind. And if this is just an act? And if his mother is doing it? Forcing himself to do this, suspicion was a cold shadow that crept into his most hopeful thoughts. He continued on his way, looking back one last time at the sisters who were beginning another song. Despite his suspicions, something inside him wanted to believe in their sincerity, of his music and the possibility that maybe he could help make a difference. After all, the music at their wedding had been the bridge that brought them together, even if it was only for a brief moment, and that couldn't just be a coincidentally. As the afternoon gave way to night, Marisol and Estelle realized that it was almost time for the first sign language class. They knew that only one of them could go, so after a brief conversation they decided that Estela would be the first to attend. Marisol gave her sister an encouraging look, saying, "Learn everything you can, Estela. We are going to need all of that to help Mom." Estela nodded, took the brochure that contained all the details of the course, and hurried down the street. Busy while Marisol took the path to the market, the air was fresh and the sky began to be painted with shades of orange and purple of the sunset, while Estela walked, her heart the ant with a mixture of anxiety and excitement, advanced along the sidewalks, dodging other pedestrians and street vendors, her mind focused on the importance of those classes. When she arrived at the place, a small community center on the corner of a less busy street, Estela took a deep breath and entered the classroom. The chairs were organized in a semicircle in front of a whiteboard. Estelle chose a place in front, took out a notebook and a pen from his bag, and prepared to absorb every gesture and every word of the instructor. The same woman who made the announcements of the course, who was already beginning to demonstrate the basic signs. The class was intense, with the instructor showing how to form each letter of the alphabet in sign language, followed by common words and phrases. Estela practiced each sign, meticulously repeating the movements until her fingers were. They moved with more confidence. Meanwhile, Marisol walked through the market, her thoughts directed towards Estela, and the mother went through several stalls looking for something nutritious and at the same time economical to take home. After a few minutes, she chose a package of fresh bread and a little bit of cheese. He knew that his mother would like to pay him with some of the coins they had earned singing, and began the walk back. Marisol's return was peaceful, with the night breeze refreshing his thoughts. He imagined how he would fare. Estela was eagerly waiting to hear everything about the class. When she reached the alley, she found her mother sitting in her usual place and quickly prepared a small sandwich with the breads and cheese. After returning from sign language class, Estela was excited to share her new knowledge with her mother Carmela, while Marisol prepared a Modesto sandwich with the breads and cheese she had bought at the market. Estela sat next to Carmela, beginning to demonstrate the signs she had learned. Carmela watched her trembling fingers attentively, trying to imitate Estela's movements. Although it was defiant, the shine of hope in Carmela's eyes was evident, fueling the sisters' determination. Marisol, noticing her sister's effort, made a small sandwich for her, and then they could eat. The three finished the meal together in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the changes that the new signs could bring to their lives. As the night progressed, the sisters settled into their small space in the alley, sharing the blanket that served as their bed, and soon they fell asleep, exhausted but full of hope at the dawn of a new day. Marisol and Estela woke up early, eager to take advantage of the morning movement in the market. However, while they prepared their instruments, one of the strings on Estela's violin burst, and the sisters' hearts broke. They sank. They had no other spare string, and they knew that the beginning of the morning was a crucial time to gain some coins. Without losing heart, Marisol suggested, "Let's sing alone without any instrument. It will be a cappella. Our voice together can be as powerful as with the violin." Estela agreed despite the initial hesitation, and together, they began to sing, using only their voices to fill the air with music. The harmonies they created were moving and slowly attracted the attention of passers-by, who stopped to listen to the purity of their songs. It was then that Ruiz, the man who had been moved by his music the day before appeared again. Observing her closely, his mind still harbored suspicions from the previous encounter. After a few songs, he approached, cautiously applauding her performance before asking his questions. "You sing wonderfully well, but yesterday you mentioned that you need the money for the surgery of your mother. Why exactly can't she work? Is there anything I can do to help?" Ruiz asked, trying to fathom the consistency of her stories. Marisol and Estelle exchanged a nervous look, not expecting that type of interrogation. "Well, our mother was a singer, as we told you the other time," Estella began, "and now that she lost her voice, she became very depressed. She tries to help us as best she can," but her voice wavered, realizing that perhaps they were revealing too much or too little. Ruiz, he noticed their excitement and the evident discomfort in their expressions. The responses did not seem completely aligned with the story he had imagined. The sisters quickly said goodbye, saying that they needed to take care of some matters, and they began to walk away, intrigued and even more suspicious. Ruiz decided to follow the sisters from a distance. He watched as they moved through the market, his mind working to unravel the truth behind those two young women who captured his attention with their angelic voices, but whose stories now seemed to be involved in mystery. Upon returning to their refuge in the alley, Marisol and Estella were visibly upset. Carmela, noticing her daughter's concern, as soon as they entered, looked at them with a worried expression. "What happened?" seemed to ask his expression, while Estella was quick to tell everything. "A man who saw us sing yesterday. He came to ask us questions today. He looked really strange. We don't know what his intentions are, so we decided to come back here a little earlier. He seemed distrustful of our story," he said. Estella, trying to stay calm, Marisol completed with a trembling voice. "Mom must have followed us. We don't know what to think. We came straight here, but that could have been a mistake." Carmela was listening attentively to her, worrying about the fear that her daughters could be in danger. Wanting to relieve the tension of the moment, Estella decided to return to the reason why she was learning sign language and began to show Carmela some of the signs she had learned in class. "Look, Mom. This sign means love," she said, crossing her arms over her chest in a gesture, and he continued, pointing towards herself and then towards Carmela's family while Estella demonstrated the signs. A figure approached the entrance. From the alley was Aureliano Ruiz. The man who had followed them stopped at a respectable distance, observing the interaction. The expression of initial distrust on Ruiz's face transformed into one of understanding and remorse when he saw the love and care with which Estella taught her. Carmela, moved, Ruiz decided to approach. "Sorry for the interruption," she began, her soft but firm voice. "I understand the meaning of those signs, and I am excited to see how much they care about their mother." Her confession surprised the sisters, who they looked at him with a mixture of surprise and defense. Marisol intervened, her tone full of caution. "Why did you follow us? What do you want from us? You must already know that we don't have money so you can take from us. So reveal your interest," she asked while Estella protected Carmela with the arm around their shoulders. Ruiz noticed the fear and distrust in their voices and expressions. "I apologize if I scared them," he said sincerely. "A few years ago I was deceived by someone who posed as a beggar, used a story. Sad to make money from well-intentioned people. Since then I have been cautious, sometimes even too much." Ruiz's words brought a heavy silence to the environment. Marisol and Estella looked at each other, pondering the man's intentions. Carmela, although she could not speak, expressed in her look a request for caution, but also for understanding. She knew better than anyone the difficulties of being wrongly judged by the world. "We understand her concern, Ruiz, and we appreciate her honesty," said Estella, her voice still carrying a trace of caution but now mixed with relief. Marisol at his side nodded in agreement. "We all have our reasons to distrust. Sometimes thank you for opening up to us." Visibly relieved for receiving your forgiveness, Ruiz then revealed more about his own life. "I am a surgeon," began, a glow of hope in your eyes. "I work in one of the hospitals nearby. If you allow me, I would like to offer my help. I have already treated cases of throat cancer before, and if it is diagnosed and treated in time, there are possible solutions." The words of Ruiz, they brought a wave of hope that Marisol and Estella had not felt in a long time. Looking at Carmela, who was observing the conversation with attentive eyes, Estella responded, "That would be incredible, doctor. Our mother means everything to us. If there is something that can be done, we want to try it with the decision made." The group headed to the hospital. Ruiz led the way while the sisters helped Carmela, who was leaning on them. She was fragile but full of new hope. Upon arrival, Ruiz spoke quickly with the team. Nurse who promptly nodded and directed Carmela to room 4, a space reserved for initial evaluations within the clinical and impersonal environment of the hospital. Marisol and Estela suddenly felt overloaded by the reality of what they were facing as they approached the service desk to treat the administrative details. Estela took out a small envelope from her purse. "This is all the money we have been able to raise," she said in a low voice, handing the envelope to the employee behind the counter. "We would have more, but we are paying for sign language classes so we can communicate better with our mother." Marisol completed with a thread of voice. "We know it's not enough, but it's all we have. Please tell us, how can we make this work?" Worry was plastered on her face as she held Estela's hands, both waiting for some form of miracle that would allow her mother to receive the necessary treatment. Ruiz watched as the sisters Marisol and Estela dealt with the tension and uncertainty of the moment. Her decision was already formed in his heart when he perceived the fear in their eyes when they gave up their few savings. His voice, firm and full of compassion, quickly intervened. "Don't worry about the cost of the surgery," said Ruiz, holding the sister's gaze to convey his sincerity. I will take care of everything. I want you to save that money and use it for something that is really useful for the three of you. As soon as your mother recovers." Marisol and Estela, relieved and incredibly grateful, nodded, their eyes shining with tears spilled. They put the envelope back in Estela's bag, feeling an enormous weight being lifted from their shadows. "Thank you, Ruiz," Estela said, her voice choked with emotion. "We don't know how to thank." While the medical team prepared Carmela for surgery, Marisol remained next to the mother, holding her hand until the last possible moment before she was taken to the surgery room. "Everything will be fine, Mom," Marisol whispered, trying to convey all the confidence she could. Estela, for her part, had been distracted by the preparations and had almost forgotten the sign language class. When the reality of the situation hit her, she quickly mentioned to Marisol, "It's your turn to go to class today. You can let me stay here and figure everything out." So Marisol hurried out of the hospital, her heart heavy with worry, but also driven by the need to continue their learning. The sun was already beginning to set, coloring the sky in shades of orange and pink. As she walked quickly back to the community center where she was staying, the classes were taught. Upon arrival, Marisol was immediately recognized by the teacher, the same woman who had announced the course in the market days before. "Estela, it's good that you could come," the teacher said with a welcoming smile. Confusing him due to the name used in the registration, Marisol decided not to correct the confusion, remembering their plan to use a single name so that they both attended classes. "We are beginning to get into more complex concepts. Today it will be very useful for you," the teacher continued. Without knowing about the change, grateful Marisol smiled back, still panting from the race against time. She took her notebook and pen, preparing to absorb all the information she could. The room was already full of other students eager to learn, but Marisol found a place at the front near the teacher. The class began with a quick review of the basic signs, and soon the teacher introduced new concepts such as facial expressions that accompanied the signs to indicate tones and emotions. Marisol practiced each gesture with determination, increasingly confident in her ability to bring her mother back to the world of communication. The sign language class progressed, and Marisol was more and more involved around her. Other students were practicing concentrated, but she had a question that carried a special meaning for her. Raising her hand attracted the teacher's attention, an expression of determination on her face. "How do I say I love you, Mom, in sign language?" she asked, her voice carrying a mixture of anxiety and hope. The room, she was silent for a moment. All eyes turned to Marisol while the teacher smiled gently at the question. "Of course, I will show you," she answered, and then slowly demonstrated the sign. She placed her hand over her heart and then extended her arms as if she were hugging someone. "It is a very special sign," he added, "and it is beautiful that you want to use it with your mother." Marisol practiced the gesture several times, each movement full of emotion, feeling grateful for being able to express that deep feeling in a new language that she was learning. At the end of class, she said goodbye to the teacher, who was still calling her by her sister's name. "Someone is going to look for her?" Estela asked the teacher with a motherly concern in her tone. Marisol, not wanting to worry her teacher, responded with a little lie. "Yes, my mother is on her way." Then she left the classroom, her heart heavy for having to deceive the teacher, but she knew it was necessary to keep her from complicity in the situation. Meanwhile, Ruiz was at the hospital. Deeply focused on Carmela's exams, he was reviewing the test results, his face illuminated only by the light of the monitor. The cancer was in the initial stage, which was good news, but the complexity of the situation and the challenges of the treatment weighed on his shoulders. The road ahead is uncertain, he thought, running his hands through his hair. She has a chance, but I can't guarantee anything. The possibility of not being able to cure Carmela or even losing her was a heavy emotional burden. Even for an experienced doctor like him at the hospital reception, Estela waited anxiously for news of her mother's surgery and for Marisol's return from class, looking at the clock, her concern growing with every minute that passed. "Where is she?" Estela murmured to herself. Walking back and forth in the waiting room the return of her sister, she was there and anxiety was beginning to take over her. Estela felt the weight of being there alone. Every sound from the hospital amplifying her tension. Marisol on the street hurried. El Paso, anxious to return to the hospital and be by the side of her sister and mother during such a critical moment. The night was already beginning to fall and the shadows were lengthening along the city sidewalks. Suddenly she heard the sound of a car slowly approaching from behind. For a moment Marisol felt a pinch of fear reflecting her recent experiences of vulnerability in the streets when the car did not slow down. Her instinct made her start running, her heart beating hard against her chest. The vehicle accelerated, following it. Its steps took hold of her. They became faster, but in its haste it tripped over an irregularity in the asphalt and fell with a thump on the cold ground. The car stopped immediately and Marisol, still on the ground, prepared for the worst, but to her surprise who came out of the car it wasn't a threat, but her sign language teacher with a worried expression. "Marisol, I'm sorry for scaring her. I just wanted to offer her a ride when I saw her walking alone," the teacher explained, extending her hand. To help her get up, Marisol accepted the help, still a little dazed not only from the fall but also from the unexpected relief. "Thank you. I was just scared," she said, cleaning her coat. The teacher kindly guided her to the car and invited her to get inside the car. The environment was safe and warm, contrasting with the cold outside. Marisol felt a little embarrassed by her initial fear but grateful for the teacher's concern. "I'm going to the hospital," she began to explain. "My mother is going through a difficult time." "Surgery now?" The teacher looked at Marisol through the rearview mirror with a sympathetic expression. "Why did you lie about her coming to pick you up?" she asked softly, offering Marisol the chance to be honest. Taking a deep breath, Marisol decided to open her heart. "My sister and I are using the same name to attend classes because we can only pay one tuition. I didn't want you to think we were trying to trick you or something. I'm sorry if this puts you in a difficult position," the teacher confessed, looking down. He smiled slightly through the reflection of the mirror, his voice calm and comforting. "Marisol, I am not going to expel them from school because of this. I understand that they are doing the best they can given the circumstances. I just want to help." Relieved, Marisol felt the ions of the day begin to dissipate. "Thank you, truly. This means a lot to us and I am really very happy to see that you understand our situation," she responded, feeling a genuine connection with her teacher. When they arrived at the hospital, the teacher wished all the best to Marisol and her family. "I hope to see you and your sister in the next class. Don't worry about the tuition, we will keep it as it is. Oh, and as soon as your mother goes through the surgery, if she still wants, she can attend the classes too," he said before saying goodbye. Marisol thanked again now with a sense of renewed hope, not only for her mother's health, but also for having found an ally in her journey. With a lighter heart she entered the hospital ready to face whatever came next. When Marisol entered the hospital, the expression of relief on her face was quickly noticed by Estela, who was anxiously waiting. "Where were you? She was so worried," Estela exclaimed, her tone mixing relief and censure. Marisol, still catching her breath from the race and the unexpected trip, quickly explained about the meeting with the teacher and the trip that followed before they could discuss more. Ruiz approached, his expression serious and thoughtful. "The surgery will be complicated." He began, looking directly at the two sisters. "I will need you to keep your fingers crossed. I will do everything in my power to ensure that everything goes well." The doctor's words were tempting for Esperanza, but also loaded with a gravity that left Marisol and her wake apprehensive, as the news of the complexity of the surgery made a shadow of fear covered the sisters' faces. The possibility of losing Carmela, the pillar of their little family, was terrifying. They hugged each other, seeking comfort in each other while Ruiz prepared to take Carmela to the hospital operating room. The hours that followed were tense and long. Marisol and Estela sat in the waiting room, every minute crawling, as if they were hours inside the operating room. Ruiz and his team worked with precision and care, Navigating the complexities of the procedure, the operation required skill and decisions quickly given the delicacy of Carmela's situation finally. After several hours of tense waiting, the surgery was concluded. It had lasted all night, and the sun was already rising again outside Ruiz. Visibly tired but relieved, he found Marisol and Estela in the waiting room the next day. The surgery was largely a success, he announced with obvious caution in his voice. We managed to remove the tumor, but unfortunately his mother will not be able to speak again. We did everything possible to minimize the damage, but the complexity of the cancer required extensive interventions. Marisol and Estelle absorbed the news with heavy hearts. They were relieved that their mother had survived, but the loss of her voice, such a vital part of who was Carmela. It seemed like a bitter victory. She is going to be devastated, Estela murmured, tears starting to form in her eyes. You can see her now, but she will still be under the effect of the anesthetics, and she will need a lot from Kano, Ruiz added, guiding her to the room where Carmela was recovering. Seeing their mother lying still unconscious and serene, the sisters felt a mixture of pain and gratitude despite the difficult situation. Marisol and Estela decided to continue attending language classes. Signs, she needs us more than ever now, said Marisol decisively as they prepared to go to class that same afternoon. We will learn everything we can to help her communicate in other ways. Upon arriving at class, the sisters were warmly received by the teacher, who expressed her sympathy. Because of the situation, you are incredibly strong, he said as he began the class, introducing new signs that would be essential for Carmela's new life. The class continued with Marisol and Estela. Focused and determined, each gesture a step towards building communication and hope for her mother. Carmela was discharged from the hospital after a few days of observation and recovery. The experience of the surgery had been intense for the entire family, but the success of the procedure brought a relief that Marisol and Estela had not felt in a long time. Before saying goodbye, Ruiz made one last recommendation that would change the lives of the sisters and their mother even more. I know a runner, a friend of mine, who can help find a suitable place to live together now that Carmela is improving. It would be nice if they had a more comfortable home, Ruiz suggested, offering them the broker's contact. Grateful for the doctor's continued concern, Marisol and Estela contacted the broker immediately with the savings they had saved. The money that was initially intended to pay for medical expenses, and that Ruiz insisted they keep, and his mother scheduled a visit to the recommended apartment, was a modesto but space. Bright and cozy, located in a quiet neighborhood, perfect for the new phase of their lives. The corridor, seeing the family's situation and hearing about their recent adversities, offered them a rental contract with favorable conditions decided. And with renewed hope, Marisol and Estela did not hesitate upon accepting the offer. Carmela was also very happy with the idea. She signed the contract, and that same week they moved into the new apartment. The feeling of having a real home, a place where they could take care of Carmela with dignity and comfort, was indescribably comforting. Once settled, they decided to take Carmela to sign language class. The idea was that she would also learn to communicate more effectively through signs. Carmela, although initially OSA due to her new condition, felt moved by the enthusiasm of her daughters and the warm welcome from the teacher and classmates in class. The experience was exciting, and she felt inspired and welcomed by the community during class while practicing the signs. Basics and idea began to take shape in Carmela's mind with the help of Marisol and Estela, who translated her words into signs. She shared her vision. I want to learn this language not only for us, but to help other people. I could perform concerts and presentations for people with disabilities. Hearing disability suggested, using the signs she already knew and the support of her daughters to communicate her idea. Marisol and Estela were excited by the proposal. It was a way for Carmela to rediscover her place in the world of music, and contributing significantly to the community is a wonderful idea. Mom, you always had that gift of connecting people through music, and now you can continue doing it in a new way, Estela said, her eyes shining with pride and admiration. The teacher heard the plan, applauded the initiative. That is extraordinary, Carmela. You have our full support, and I am sure that many will benefit from your interpretation. I know that in addition to the continuity of a dream, it will be an act of kindness. Hope and plans for the future. They knew the challenges would continue, but now they were armed with new skills, a new home, and a new mission that gave Carmela renewed purpose. Their journey was still full of uncertainties, but now more than ever they were ready to face what come together. Several months had passed since Carmela's surgery, and the sisters' lives had found a new rhythm. Marisol and Estela had adapted to their new home and the new reality of caring for a mother who, although she could not speaking, had found a new voice through sign language. They were now involved in an exciting project that had captured not only the essence of their new life, but also the attention of the deaf community. On a quiet afternoon, as the sisters organized the house, television was on in the background broadcasting the news of the day. Suddenly, the presenter announced an event that immediately captured their attention, and the news of the moment is the concert that will take place here in our city. With the presence of the internationally famous singer Lucia Marajo, the event will also feature a special novelty, Carmela Vasquez, a talented sign language interpreter. She will be present to make this show accessible to the deaf community. Marisol and Estela looked at each other's eyes, shining with excitement and pride. Carmela, sitting between them, smiled, her eyes reflecting the joy she felt because her new vocation was recognized on such a large scale. "Mom, you're going to be famous," Estela exclaimed, hugging her. Carmela, excitedly inspired by the news, Marisol grabbed her laptop and began researching more about the community's reaction to the news of the concert. The online forums were filled with positive comments, and many members of the deaf community expressed their excitement and gratitude for having the opportunity to enjoy a concert by a great star like Lucia. Wonderful, thanks to Carmela's performance. "Look at this, Mom. The people are really supporting them. They are so happy and excited." Marisol read in. Some of the comments were loud, and each word of support seemed to strengthen Carmela's spirit even more. As they discussed the details of the event, the phone rang. Estela ran to answer it, and on the other end of the line was Ruiz. "Hello, girls. I just heard the news about the concert and about Carmela's special participation. I can't express how proud I am of all of you," he said, his voice full of joy and admiration. He continued, sharing more, that he also wanted to say that if you need anything, any support for the concert, do not hesitate to call me. Your mother is doing something incredible, transforming challenges into opportunities. She is an inspiration. The night of the concert finally arrived, bringing a palpable energy to the city. The large auditorium was full of expectation, illuminated by vibrant lights that they captured the emotion of the Maris audience and entered their places near the stage, where they had a clear view of Carmela, who was positioned next to the singer Lucia Maravilla. As the concert began, Lucia's voice resonated through the space, capturing everyone's attention. However, it was Carmela's sign language interpretation that stole the show. Her movements were graceful and expressive, communicating not only the words of the song, but also her emotions to the audience. I was fascinated, many seeing this art form for the first time, impressed with the beauty of silent communication that transcended sound barriers. Next to Marisol and Estela, Ruiz, I watched in admiration. "They must be very proud," commented, looking at the twins with a smile. "Their mother is doing something wonderful here. She is changing the way all of us understand music." Marisol responded with a radiant smile. "Yes, we are. It is incredible to see how many people she is touching with her performance. I always knew that our mother had had a wonderful power, but I did not know that it would be revealed in such an unexpected way, and that it would be so good to witness." The concert continued with a series of exciting performances. Then came the moment. Surprise of the night. Lucia Marvel announced that she was opening an instrumental piece, and that Carmela with her daughters would present the music in sign language. "We are going to show that music is for everyone, and that words can be felt, not just heard," Lucia told the audience. Marisol and Estela went on stage, joining Carmela while the pianist began to play. The three began to interpret the music in signs. The audience, knowing the melody, began to sing in chorus, creating a moment of unity and beauty. Indescribable, the entire auditorium was involved, deaf and hearing united by music and signs. Ruiz, watching everything, felt a deep emotion welling up within him. It was the same music that Marisol and Estela had sung in the streets. The music of their wedding. Tears began to form in her eyes as she saw the power of music to unite people in all ways. After the concert, as people began to leave the place, Ruiz found Carmela outside. The night was clear and the stars were shining in the sky. He approached her, and with the signs that he had learned in courses that his job as a surgeon provided, he began to converse, seeking to show more inclusion with the way she now used to communicate without her voice. Carmela only wanted to say thank you, signaling her movements, which were still a little clumsy but sincere. You inspired me today. Thank you for showing all of us what music really looks like. Carmela, seeing Ruiz's effort and sincerity, smiled and responded with signs. I thank you for everything. I learned a lot from the day of you three, and it was an honor to have participated in all of this. The silent words exchanged under the starry sky sealed a moment of mutual understanding and gratitude. The twins joined them, and together they reflected on the journey they had run from adversity to achievement. The night has been a celebration of new beginnings and barriers overcome, a reminder that even in the quietest moments, music and love find a way to be heard. As the crowd gathers dispersed under the starry sky, Marisol, Estela, and Carmela, they felt imbued with a new energy. Together they reflected on the moments that took them there and the impact that each step had left on their lives. Imagine, just a few months ago, we were worried about how to face each new day, and now here we are, part of something so big and good. It seems that not everything that is difficult to handle comes for the worse. We just need to understand the path that is being written for our destiny. Shared Marisol with a smile, while Estela nodded, holding her mother's hand. It's true, Marisol and Mom, I was incredible there on stage. Everyone could feel what you wanted to express, said Estela, her eyes shining with pride. Carmela excitedly used signs to respond, seeing our efforts transform into something so beautiful. It was more than Ruiz could ask for, now more of a friend than just the doctor who helped them through difficult times. He also shared the feeling of fulfillment. You showed that adversity is not the end but a opportunity for a new beginning, she commented, looking at the three with admiration. In the months that followed that unforgettable night of the concert, Carmela dedicated herself intensely to the study of sign language. Over time, her skill and passion transformed her into a respected interpreter, frequently requested in large concerts and cultural events. Every gesture I make, it is not just a translation, it is a voice for those who cannot hear or speak. Carmela reflected proudly on her role in making music accessible to all. Inspired by the strength and determination of their mother, Marisol and Estela felt motivated to expand the reach of that new voice. Together, they developed an innovative project that united music and sign language with the aim of teaching and inspiring both deaf and mute people and listeners. Let's use music to bring the signs to life, Estela suggested during one of the planning meetings, and Marisol enthusiastically agreed as they celebrated their achievements. Ruiz watched from afar with a warm smile stamped on his face. The transformation he had witnessed from that first meeting in the streets until now was something that deeply touched his heart. They have truly done something incredible, he said, only at a moment when he remembered them in the hospital, his words full of admiration and respect. Now, he had been promoted to director of the hospital and was using his newfound influence to continue doing good for all patients, even those who could not afford expensive surgeries at the end of a long, hard day. Gratifying, the three women shared a quiet moment together. I never imagined that losing my voice would lead me to find a new way of singing for the world. Car expressed the emotion, Clara on her face, Marisol and Estela at her side, smiling, their hands clasped in a gesture of union and mutual support. Mom, you have shown us that there are no limits to what we can achieve, Marisol responded as the twilight fell gently over them, symbolizing the closing of a day and the beginning of many possibilities. If you like this story, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel. It is essential so that we can continue bringing exciting stories frequently. Stay connected in order not to miss our next incredible narrative that will soon appear on your screen. We greatly appreciate your support. Until next time.